Welcome back, everybody, to the Frustrated CEO podcast. My name is Patrick Lyons, and I'm here with my co-hosts and friends, Leb Tannenbaum. Hello, Leb.
Hello.
And Patsy Freeman. Welcome, Patsy.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad you're both here. Our guests today on the Frustrated CEO podcast are CPAs and partners and friends, Teri Johnson and Doug Lacher from the firm Fellner Kuhn, primarily based here in Oregon, but serving clients outside of, right? Serving clients in the metro area and beyond. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes. Thank you, Patrick, for having us.
So Doug and Teri, let's start with Doug. Doug is a CPA turned business owner, passionate about accurate tax planning and execution and how those create foreseeable business success. He's been a partner at Fellner Kuhn since 2012 and serves as an advisor, a controller for hire, and often an advocate with the IRS. I would say, full disclosure, I have known and worked with Doug and Teri for 6 years now. I would say that Doug's superpower is the energy that he brings, the relationship building, and he is the one that keeps the team laughing. Now, the other partner at Fellner Kuhn, Teri Johnson, works with her clients and in-house team members as a consultant, an auditor, a coach, and also sometimes mediator. And I would say that Teri's supernatural power is finding order in chaos. Teri is fantastic at that. And I think that's an important skill, especially in these days where it seems like it's nonstop chaos. So Teri Johnson, Doug Lacher, welcome to the Frustrated CEO.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So here's my first question. When we first started, when I met you a number of years ago, one of the first things that we started doing together was working on a strategic plan. We're working on creating a vision statement, a purpose statement, talking about how is Fellner Kuhn different? What makes you unique? What makes you different in the industry? And in addition to talking about the services that you provide to your customers, the last statement in your vision to this day still sticks with me. And that is the last statement in your purpose. The last sentence in your purpose statement is, "We strive to leave the emotion in it." What does that mean? And why was it important? And how does it differentiate you?
Well, when it comes to accounting, one of the questions that we get asked is, what makes you different? And I think the important thing when you do work with a service professional is that you feel comfortable with that individual, but they're really taking a look at the holistic approach. They're looking at all aspects of it. And one of the questions that comes to mind first is, where should I move to save taxes? And the reason why we say you keep the emotion in is because if you don't want to move, then no, you pay the taxes, but realize what the penalty would be by doing so. But there's reality and then there's taxes. And so you have to somehow try to merge those two things together. And it gets to be, we oftentimes become counselors for clients, helping them understand family situations, things that may not make sense at the beginning, the way an estate is divided up amongst beneficiaries or heirs may not make sense. But in that time, our job is to help our clients make the best decision for the long term. And that's why we do keep the emotion in it.
And I think another aspect to it, if I may just add to that, is, there's just a lot of smart people out there, right? There's so many smart people. We're all smart. We're all educated, but what makes us different is that we not only do the work, but it's the relationship that we make with our clients, and really teach that to our team of what makes us different. Like, for the most part, our clients like us. They want to work with us. They want to call us. I think, right? I think, and so it seems so small, but you get that stereotype. Oh, you don't seem like an accountant. And I take that as a compliment, because that's what keeps us different. And we do look for those types of team members who can stand out and not only do really good work and good consulting, but really just hold that relationship and have the help to be there for the tough conversations with the clients. Because just like your health, your financial health is just as important. And it's sometimes troubling to talk about and hard to talk about, and you have to be vulnerable. And so you have to be there with them to be there. And so I think we really work on that side of it too, besides just the work.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's not just black and white numbers. It's not just tax code, but it's getting deeper to understand.
I can give you an example of that too. I mean, we're all going through this pandemic right now, and one of the things that we had to weigh was, Teri and I have been talking about going to a remote workforce for a long time. And part of that reason was because I wanted to be able to spend more time with my family, less time on the road, and really be able to find, not necessarily, you hear the term work-life balance, and what does that really mean? But it's more like an overall life balance. And that's really what we read a book, and we're very encouraged by that. And it made us both want to have some opportunities to work from home, not just for us, but also for our team as well. And when the pandemic hit, we'd kind of already been working a day or so at home each week. But what really happened was when the pandemic hit, the first thing that came to my mind is I want to keep my clients, their businesses open, keep their doors open. And what can we do to do that? There were so many sleepless nights. The conflict for me at least was, do I spend this extra time with my clients or do I spend the time with my family? How do I find that balance? And what I ended up telling my children was, there are my clients, but I consider them friends and I consider them long-term relationships who I know. And so the struggle is, I'm wanting to spend more time with my family, but now I'm finding myself back at work again, trying to keep these businesses alive. And it was getting through that. And on the other side now, for most of them, one of the things that I've heard is, I don't consider you just my CPA, I consider you a friend. And it's one of the greatest compliments we can receive is to hear that, where we built an emotional connection. And so you can't take the emotion out of it. The emotion, we are emotional beings. Most human beings are able to show that emotion. And those of us who don't show it as much, we still have emotion. So that's why, again, keeping the emotion in is so important. It's part of who we are as human beings.
What was the book?
Off Balance by Matthew Kelly.
Off Balance. Okay.
It's all about satisfaction of life. It's kind of replaces the work-life balance, but it's really a satisfaction within. And I have shared it with so many people as well.
So if that's your differentiator, and Teri, you said we hire for it and we try to teach our team how to do that. How do you do that? How do you hire for people who keep the emotion in it? And how do you train them to build the relationships and go beyond the black and white numbers?
Well, Patrick, I've had a business coach for the last 5 or 6 years. That may be you. But part of that is, that's a really good question, because like you all mentioned right now, there's not enough people out there for the workforce. And you hear this in all industries. Where are the people? Where are the people? And we're like, we don't know. And everyone's looking from big firm to small firm. Everyone's looking for the same person. And you have to be able to really figure out if that person's going to be a good fit. And that is not an easy thing to do. And so what we have implemented is not only the technical interview, but we have then based a second interview on our core values with your help. So as far as they kind of go through a beginning process, and then they meet with our managers to get more of the technical side of it. But then after that, we do pass them on to you, Patrick, as the coach who knows our core values and our team. And it's just a cultural fit interview. And a lot of people don't do that side of it because you drill down and you shed those layers. We're used to those layers just being pulled back. But there's a lot that you can get to in that really will determine if you're a good fit. And they are core value question based, which we have found since we've implemented has been pretty successful. Really because we've had some really good technical, I think the best advice, honestly, some of the best advice that I got through our coaching is that it just was so simple, was passing is 100%. And you can have 50% technical skills, but if you fail the other 50% on the other side, you're not passing. And so that, and we quickly go to like, man, we got to get the work done. We got to get the work done. But we do take a step back and have turned down some really good technical skilled individuals because there's more to it for us. And so that's what we've implemented.
Do you find that people actually self-select out when they go into that second 50% of the interview around the core values fit? Like, oh, I don't know, I just want to do the numbers.
We've had people who've gone through our first 2 rounds of interviews. Again, Teri and I basically, our idea is, can we put this person in front of one of our friends or clients and represent our firm well? And then the technical skills are there. But yeah, once they get through that 3rd round, we have had some people kind of drop out or say that it may not be a good fit for them for whatever reason. And it can be frustrating because we've loved them through the first 2 rounds. So we want to know why they say no. But again, you have to want to be here. If you don't want to be here, and you can't show up every day, it's really, you're doing a disservice to you, to yourself, to our clients, to the team, and somebody else is going to have to pick that up. And it becomes, you can fake it for so long, the whole fake it till you make it, that works for a little while, but at some point you've got to believe and you got to really want to do that. And if you don't, we want people to be happy somewhere else. And we've helped people make that decision where we realize that they may be a great accountant, and it just may not be the right place for them.
Right.
And so they found success other places, and we maintain great relationships with them.
Mm-hmm. You know, I heard an astounding statistic just the other day, and it was that, and this could be old, I'm not sure how current it actually is, but I heard that 70% of our employees out there in the work field are disengaged. I mean, they're just showing up and just doing the motion, punching in and punching out. We're really looking for the other 30%. And that is hard to find. Like, we really want people who care to show up. And I don't think you get that unless you dive deeper into as best as you can, because it still is an interview. You can miss it, right? I mean, it happens. But the more you spend the time in the upfront really trying to figure out the whole person, not just some of the skill set, because that's really what we're looking for, is people who care and want to be part of our team.
We've had clients employees, that left our firm, went to another a competitor, and we really enjoyed working with that individual. When the opportunity came back to hire them back, we reached out and said, "Hey, I know this is a stretch. We weren't able to offer what you wanted at the time, but things have changed. Would you be interested in coming back?" And the tearful answer was absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it was great to see that. Again, we try to build relationships where people will want to have a lasting memory of us, a good thing that they've learned, they've grown, and this may not be their forever home, but again, we hope we send them off with all the technical skills and the people skills that they need to succeed somewhere else.
I have a question. It's related to Myers-Briggs type profile studies, right? So, you know, in the research I've done in your field, you might have a fair number of introverted people, right? People who are not as extroverted maybe as Doug is, right? And so I'm curious, and I think our listeners might be curious, if we dug in just a little bit around, well, how do you conduct this emotional side of the interview, right?
Good question.
You know,
And
not about core values, but, you know, are we looking for a tear? Are we looking for excitement? You know, I'm really curious how you do that, or how you know that this person's passionate enough to be here.
You know, it's a really good question. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I kind of jumped over that. So part of the process too is we have all of our individuals take the Gallup Strength Finders test. And we have a grid of every individual, you know, where they are, because those inherent skills are just who you are. And we have an idea of what because, you know, there's execution and influencing, relationship and strategic, like, where are they? And we think we kind of know when we talk to them. And then we get the information back from Patrick and put it into our grid. And with our experience over the years, we have quickly been able to be like, nope, that's not going to work, because you got it. So we're looking for we look for execution, but man, in accounting, we're looking for some strategic, because that means their head thinks that way inherently. Relationship building, all of it. And then, but we also know that not everybody has the same skills. And so we learn to leverage those skills. And Doug and I often go back to this grid and we're like, okay, what are we missing with this person? You know, like why? And then we look at it and I'm like, oh, that's right. Because they're so strong in execution. That makes sense. You know, it's just who they are. And we've really utilized that tool and highly encourage anybody to go that direction, and really buy into it, because I know it, and I mean, this is what you guys do, but I love this stuff. You know, it just seems sometimes soft, but it just isn't. It is so necessary to have a good team to work together.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's interesting, when somebody walks in to do an interview, a lot of times, Teri and I will almost always know if it's going to be a yes or a no, at least if they've met that first hurdle. And some of it's how you show up every day.
Totally.
And when somebody walks through the room, again, do they lighten up the room? Do they walk with confidence? Or not that that's the only answer that we're looking for, but I also love to throw them curveballs. We'll ask a lot of serious questions in a row, and out of nowhere, I'll ask them what their favorite TV show is, or their favorite sitcom, or their favorite movie, whatever it is, because there's certain things, you want them to have, again, if it's a sense of humor, if it's whatever it is, that sometimes those answers really are indicative of who that individual is.
There have been times where you've been in a pretty serious interview and Doug, like, so if you were to pick a superpower, what would it be? And they're like, I'm like, oh, no, really, what would it be? You know, like, we're serious.
So if I heard you correctly, you're talking about like someone in person.
Yeah,
right. So is the hiring process gone entirely virtual as the rest of the company has gone virtual?
Yes, it has, 100%. We've hired now 3 people, 100% virtual. Mm-hmm. So the same concept applies, though. How do you show up to the interview? Are you on time? Are you, did you look at what the background is behind you, what it's going to look like? How are you portraying yourself? Did you dress up? Do you look good? Did you comb your hair? I mean, all the basic things. And you can see that in an instant on screen too. Now, again, not everybody has the same setup. I get it. So we have to think about that too. But that is a huge indicator, even within the first 2 to 3 seconds, how well it's going to go. And again, because this is how they're going to present themselves to our team and to our clients.
Right.
And if that impression is bad from the beginning, it's a very short interview.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say that just it goes into, in this virtual world, I truly think showing up for yourself as much as you can on a daily basis, even when we were going through that pandemic in 2000, back in 2020, seems forever ago, is so important and really helped us. I truly think get you through the day. I mean, get up, take a shower, put your makeup on, do your hair, do it for you, not just for, because we did require one thing that we did, and I know I'm jumping around, I suppose, a little bit, but the video was a very important piece. We required video, just as though you're walking down the hallway to talk to someone, no phone calls. We're going to look and see each other because that's who we are. And that was not easy for some. It took some time. Now they're used to it. But
what does it mean to show up for yourself? Can you just, I know you kind of touched on it, but when you think for you, Teri, what as especially as an owner, right? Because you're talking to a listener, a CEO, and you're saying, hey, you listener, you need to show up for yourself. What has challenged you in that area? What has worked for you in that area? What advice would you have?
Yeah, I do think when you're leading a team remote, you do have to, just like if you were at the office, I think what's important to remember is that you still are the leader and people, all eyes on you. And I do think it's important to present yourself how you want to be seen every day. And because I think you lead by example, and showing up for yourself means being, and what that looks like, is different for everybody, absolutely. Even when you go to the office, it's not necessarily a physical presence, but it's more how you carry yourself, being ready as far as, walking into your room, just as though you were to walk down the hallway and open the door to your office type of thing. Not really be intentional about that pivot from kitchen to office, even though they may be just 2 steps apart. And for some people, in some cases, you're in your same room. As we all know, right? We saw and people still, and that's just the way it is. And how you carry yourself, I think, particularly as a leader, sets an example and just sets the tone of how you're feeling all the way down.
Okay, so that leads to a question. It reminds me of a conversation we had a couple of years ago. I'm going to put you both on the spot. We had lunch a couple of years ago where, you remember, where, what's that?
You're talking about the Yard House?
Yes. So
I know where this is going.
By the way, today's episode is brought to you by the Yard House.
I know.
So we had lunch, and it was a bit of a valley for each of you, right? You were both struggling a little bit, and the question was, why? How do we re-energize our team? How do we? It was this whole conversation about, it just like feels like the energy's down, and we've lost a little bit of our mojo. And this was even before the pandemic, right? This was like we were all still in one location, right? And there was a point in the conversation. It was very much like what you were just saying, Teri. That's like, as a leader, you have to show up for yourself. I have to show up for myself every day. And there was a realization somewhere in the conversation where, Teri, I'll never forget it. You turned to Doug and you said, "Oh my God, Doug, we're not fun." It was like you instantly stopped focusing on the team and you turned the mirrors to yourselves and said, "We're not fun. And if we're not fun, then how are they going to have fun?" So, first of all, you're nodding, so you remember the conversation, right?
I remember that. Yeah.
That's a conversation we had a few weeks ago as well. We said, how do we keep what we tried to do before in place during the situation working remote? And it has been difficult. I realized that I was trying not to joke as much, to keep things more light and anyway, just on task. And I said, that's not who I am. And I want to be who I am, because if I'm not, people see right through it. I'm not having a good time. And then what's the point? If I'm not going to have fun with the people I work with and the clients I work with, why am I even doing what I'm doing? So back then we had that conversation and said, okay, what were we doing before that made it a fun thing to do? Where we loved walking through those doors and where we loved walking through our current office door. How do we make that happen again? Yeah. And it really is, it's how, again, you talk about showing up to work mentally. There's a lot of people who are struggling right now with what's going on. Yeah. We have to show up first and let our team know that we've got the energy, we've got the desire, we've got the ability to carry this on each day. And then our team will hopefully see that and take some of that positive energy and roll with it.
Right.
And I think the key there is you're not asking anybody to do anything that you're not doing yourself. Mm-hmm. That's key.
Mm-hmm. Another key I'm hearing is know who you are, be your authentic self.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I want to take our listener back. The two of you Doug and Teri have been partners you have been the owners at Fellner Kuhn for 10 years, right about 10 years. There are two of you, but when you started this journey as partners, there were four of you. And the story is that the second generation owners sold the business to the two of you and two additional coworkers. So the four coworkers suddenly become four partners. You didn't really choose each other. And you then had to figure out, how do we work together? And over the time from then to now, so take us through that process. What's it like going from employee to owner instantly, or not instantly, but relatively quickly? figuring out how to work together as a foursome, and then the evolution of getting from there to here today, where there are now two.
That was tough. I mean, we spent almost a year from the time we were offered the partnership or offered the firm and said, hey, it's all four, it's nothing, we'll sell it to somebody outside.
So you had no choice.
No.
It was all four or none.
I mean, you always have a choice, right? The choice was I could do this with these individuals.
The intention was for it to be the four of us. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sorry, Doug. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. So I think what happened initially, you have to accept that reality, say we're either going to make this work or we're not. So we had a decision to make. And then the conversation started, and we met, oh boy, I can't tell you how many hundreds of hours probably going over things. And a lot of times what we were finding is you would get to a point where you just get stuck, where it felt a lot like it was 2 to 2 a lot of times. And that wouldn't always be the same two people, but on different issues, there's 4 partners, you've got different sides to that. Or if it is a 3 to 1, we'd say, well, we have to have a group consensus. It's got to be 4 or we're not doing it. And we just, a lot of brain power that went into that, and it just stopped. Where when it was 3 of us, we continued to have the meetings and the conversation. What we said is we don't have to have 3 yeses to make a decision. We can have 2. And when we started doing that, things started happening. Things started moving very quickly. We went from mostly we had some paperless programs, but we really had a lot of paper. We had an entire file room that was full of paper. And one of the first things that we did when it was Teri and I is we cut almost all of the paper out. We only had the current year, and we said we're for tax documents, and after that, everything's electronic, so we don't store any paper anymore. We receive the client files, we return the client files, all get scanned, it's all electronic. But there were some significant changes that we made early on in the process because we knew where we wanted to be. We wanted to be remote at some point, and we're here now. But there were some steps along the way to make that happen in the foresight to be able to see where you have to know what the goalpost is so you can get there.
Yeah.
And I will say through that process, all 4 wonderful people. I mean, the 2 that were, when you go through these types of processes, particularly a business partner running a business, just like being a team member and working for a firm, like either it's a good fit or it's not. Doesn't mean that you're good or bad or right or wrong, but sometimes it's just not a good fit. And when you're a business partner with someone, you're running a firm, it just really needs to be a good fit. And it took us some time to determine what needed, and so a couple people left and they are now better in great positions. And Doug and I just was easy. And that's like the biggest advice I have for any, like when you're going into, we consult all the time on partnerships and, it's like going into a marriage. I mean, you have to trust and have their back and, and share their vision and everything that goes into it if you're going to keep moving forward and grow, whatever that looks like with number of employees, revenue, whatever it is. And so once we got there, and it took some time, some evolving and understanding and some growing on all of us to determine really where this company was meant to be, was with Doug and I, and it just worked. And then, like he said, once we got there and everyone got into their right place, we made some significant changes and we started to grow. And we started to grow our team, and it was a journey.
Yeah,
it was a journey.
So my takeaway,
we started with 4 partners and 4 employees. We now have 2 partners and 12 employees, and so it's definitely the dynamic has changed as far as how we operate and what. But there's been a learning curve to that too, as far as how we do that and train our team and develop our team on the admin side, on our operations and our accounting. There's just different levels that we've had to do defining roles and responsibilities where, I wish communication is so important, and you can never over stress communication, especially in a virtual world. But otherwise, I mean, I think there was a lack of communication, of clear, open communication in our partnership when there were 4 of us to begin with, because we were afraid of hurting somebody else or whatever else it may have been. There was a lot of conversation that would stop because we all cared about each other. We liked each other. We didn't want to hurt anybody. And so rather than being honest and upfront, we were hurting ourselves by not having the hard conversations. And that's something you have to do.
Yeah. I always just use the term, we're stuck. We just got stuck. Stuck, and we didn't go anywhere. And for me, being an executor, like that was so frustrating. Like I cannot, and that honestly, I remember this, how I met Patrick and introduced him to our team. And I was like, I truly think that any leader should have a business coach. Always. You need someone else to talk to that's not your team. You need someone else to talk to about the things and just the counsel that's not your team, because to help you move in those directions, because it's hard and it's hard to stay unstuck, and it takes effort. It's easy just to stop, right? And
I'll never forget a meeting that we have actually with Patrick and Leb when we were introduced to the safety net. And that was one of the things that said, the thing that Patrick, I think I've heard you say a whole bunch of times, but I appreciate it, is trust my intent. If you can't trust the intent of somebody else, you really shouldn't be talking to them anyway, number one. But I think, what you're reiterating is saying, hey, this may not come out very, very articulate, but here's what I'm feeling. And you're going to do your best to say it and not intentionally hurt somebody, but this is what's on my mind. And when we said that, or the safety net, you could use either one of those terms. I kind of use those interchangeably, whether that's right or wrong. But when Teri and I have a conversation and one of us wants to bring up something that's bothering the other one, that's what say, hey, please trust my intent here. Which means, hey, I'm going to say something that's not, I'm having a hard time saying it, but I got to say it, or we're not going to go anywhere with this.
Right.
And so whether we come up with a result or an answer to that concern right then and there is a whole different issue. But once it's off of our chest, hey, this is bothering me. And then we can actually talk. The elephant's in the room. Now we can talk about it and resolve it for that matter.
Yeah.
You just have to have the difficult conversations, and they're not easy. You got to really, you got to trust the people that you're with.
And if you can't trust your business partner wholeheartedly, you shouldn't be in business. That makes it really tough.
100%.
Can we take this to your clients? So,
Sure.
And here's part of the question for me. In some of the conversations with the people that we work with, and it seems to have really, the pandemic allowed for some reflection maybe that wasn't happening prior to. And what they're talking about is, we have some clients we should fire. We have some clients who really aren't with us, right? And so you've done a great job on the hiring. Is there a vetting for the clients that you work with, or a targeting of, these are the kind of clients I want to work with? And do you bring that kind of strategy to your team? I'm really curious, because there are some clients who are not good with, like somebody said recently, I can't even remember where it was, is that a bad client is going to take out your best employee. If you allow abuse to happen, we've
had that experience. I think one thing that's happened, Lab, to answer part of the question is, I think with the shortage of workforce right now and the difficulty of hiring and the cost of labor right now, to be honest, more than anything, is we've had to make some decisions to scale differently. And you can't go out and grab everybody, nor do we want to anyway to begin with. But we've had to try to focus on how we can go and offer more services and more inclusive services to the existing client base and build those better relationships, deeper relationships with them, rather than trying to go out and pursue every single person we come across. But having those meetings with people, number one, you got to make sure that they have the same type of values that we, quite honestly, those are our values for our team, but those really extend out to those types of values, I should say, extend out to our clients as well. And if somebody doesn't really, you can tell when you meet with somebody what their goals are, if they're not really into their business, if they treat their employees poorly, all sorts of different questions like that I will ask. And I've said no to lots of clients because of that. And because I want them to know that they care about their business, they care about their growth, and they care about their people, because we care about our people. And if they care about their people, they'll treat ours with kindness as well and respect.
Right.
Yeah, I think through the process of going through these things, really determining what your ideal client is important. And that definitely was a journey for us and took us a while. Versus like Doug said, it's natural for anyone to kind of take whatever you can get and service them, but really knowing what you do well and who, and I think going in with confidence in, those positions of really when you're selling your business of what type of services that you provide. And, one time Doug and I could have been a very successful business, but they weren't nice. They were not nice. And they just didn't appear nice. And I like to work with nice people. And so do our team. And we want them to be with, and that maybe it was just a bad day but we are able, and I really encourage, and it's not easy to get there, to, like you said, love to, to determine what is the type of client you want to take on, but really finding that. And because when Doug and I bring on a client and pass it on to our team, it's a reflection of who we are as well, because these are the people we're working with, and we're asking them to put everything they have out to them as well. And so I think keeping sight of that is important as well.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the other thing that's inferred here is there's a certain level of trust that has to be in place and passed along, right? And when you're dealing with people's money,
right,
there can be a sensitivity that causes emotions that may not really truly be who they are, but they're there. So there's got to be some level of skill, I think, in emotional intelligence to recognize the difference between someone who's really misbehaving or someone who's upset.
Right.
And talk. Do you review and talk about your clients on some type of quarterly basis, or anything that our listeners might say, "Oh gosh, we're not doing that," or "What are you doing?"
We poll our employees every year. We ask our employees if we do ask them if there was somebody that a client you'd want to fire, who is it, and why would it be?
Yeah.
And we've listened to that, and we have let some clients know that we would no longer be providing the service to them. If again, our employees are a huge part of our organization. They're a reflection of who we are. They're a reflection of our values and what we believe. And so if our employees are happy, our clients are going to be happy because they're going to feel that. But again, if we're not receiving that back from the client for whatever reason, then a lot of times we've got to make a decision. And it's a tough decision. It really is. And the same is true with employees as well, right? So if the client is a great client and they're not getting the respect and care they need from our staff, we're going to have that conversation with them. But if it happens again, we have the same type of discussion internally versus externally. I think you need to review your client list every year. You need to see, hey, how do we make a C or B client an A client?
Yeah.
And how do we, and then the D's and F's, they've got to find somewhere else to go.
Yeah.
We have gone through a process of rated our clients. And I think it's an important exercise because it actually is pretty eye-opening and helps you scale. I mean, depending upon, because sometimes in our industry specifically, volume is an issue because we've got a little window and we have a lot of work to do. And there's really only so much we can do. And we are trying to keep our people satisfied as well, which really means knowing that balance of what we can actually do during this period of time.
Yeah,
because things keep getting harder. New tax bills. Oh my gosh. Enter COVID, stimulus, this and that. Consult your tax advisor. We're it. We got to know this stuff. And so, but we want to be that trusted person that they go to. So we really need to be realistic on what we can do.
So that one of the questions that I had is, as a CPA in public accounting, you pretty much know every year from January through, in most years, April 15th, most years, right, unless the deadline gets extended, which may sound like a good thing for the business or the individual, but it's really that it taxes the CPA firm and your employees for a longer period of time, right? But you've got this big spike of work at the beginning of the year. And then you've got a little bit of a break, and then you have another big deadline that comes in September 15th for a bit more. I guess that's for the business filings that got extended, and then you have another deadline for October 15th. But so you know there's a seasonality to your business that you really can't control. It's driven by the tax codes. How do you lead people through those spikes, and how do you keep them well? How do you keep them engaged? How do you keep them focused? How do you keep them from quitting, for that matter?
Humor.
Yeah. Okay.
That's one of my go-tos. Again, we will. I will do all sorts of random things. I will play different video clips or send people through chat. We use Zoom, but send a Zoom chat with some sort of funny video or picture. We have a a comedy channel with our Zoom, and so everybody can post different funny sayings, jokes, those types of things there.
Cool.
But I think the most important thing there is just be real. Again, it goes back who we are, and if you're having a rough day, somebody else could be too. And so find somebody else who brings you joy or brings happiness to your day, who can make you smile. Give them a call, and then go on about calling other people, because you want to make sure that's the reason why when you're on an airplane, they tell you to put your mask on first before the other people around you, because you have to be able to be in a good place to help other people get there too.
It's a good.
It's hard, the seasonality of our profession is hard. That's why it's important to find engaging team members who love it, because you gotta love it for the most part. Liking what you do is real. It's a real thing, because otherwise showing up every day and doing what we do is hard. But there's also the component that we've really looked back at the fact of scaling volume, making sure that we can keep these people engaged and satisfied during these busy seasons is challenging. 100%, particularly in our industry. We've made some choices for our firm to hire more for help and to reduce some of the volume of being. This isn't necessarily. We don't need. We've reduced volume on purpose for just this reason, because we don't. The burnout is real. In any industry you're in, if you work too much. And I think another key is really showing and communicating that they are so appreciated and valued and part of all of this. And it's not just us, because if you're going to ask people to do that and give their time, they need to feel like it's a joined effort. And I think we do a pretty good job.
What might a work week look like in the midst of the season?
Doug, I'll let you take.
Are you talking about the number of hours, or what are you referring, or just whatever? We have all sorts of different tasks. We do financial statements, we do audits, compilations, and reviews, different levels of services, as well as tax returns, bookkeeping, trust work. There's a lot of different things that we do, a lot of different hats that we wear at different times for our clients. And so as far as January, we're getting all the compliance done. People get, you get a W-2 if you're an employee, 1099 if you're a contractor, those types, all the forms that go out. We're helping our clients do a lot of forms in January. February, March really picks up with tax returns. And I would say, there are certain weeks where you may be working 60 or 70 hours in a week, and it gets to be a lot. I will say before, we were putting in somewhere 70 to 90 hours, sometimes even over 100 hours a week. And it was too much. And that's really the breaking point for Teri and I. Just said, if we don't want to do this, I'm sure our employees don't want to do this. But our goal was to reduce the number of hours that our employees are working and really increase the satisfaction in the workplace. Because if they're going to have a greater satisfaction in the workplace, hopefully that carries over to home and every other aspect of their life. And we've seen that personally, and we've seen it with a lot of our employees as well.
But there's the buzz. I call it the buzz of tax season. It's I secretly love it, and it's why I do it. I love there's so much work that has to be done in the course of a week, or can you physically just can't get it done, but it will get done because the team pulls together and you get it done. And it's just lots of communication and lots of, following up and just buzz, and you got to like it. I love seeing people come together and rally and pull it all together with kind of an intense, high-paced atmosphere. It's nice when April 15th hits. You can just take it.
I was going to say, and then you give them extra space after that, right? I mean, it's not like, okay, we go from 60, 70 hours, to 50 or 40. I mean, you are my understanding is you're giving them more time off in the non-seasonal time to kind of make up for that.
We have made a big effort. Most of our people are not working more than 60 hours a week, 55. And that's been a huge
during tax season.
Tax season. And that includes, a weekend work, but then also we do give back in the fact that they get additional days off after April 15th holiday, after the October 15th holiday, floating birthday, lots of additional time just to kind of give back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Teri, and one thing I know you're passionate about is being a woman-owned, 50% woman-owned business, and in an industry that has historically been pretty male-dominated, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct, yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I am proud to be a woman in the leader in a CPA firm in the accounting world. Women are definitely making their entrance in our profession, which is fantastic. But it's not easy. It's particularly when you start to, quote, climb up the ladder, whatever that means, whatever size it is. We have a lot of moms out there who juggling having kids and continuing to wanting, but also having this passion and this goal to keep moving forward. But then this place of how do I do this if I'm juggling a family and trying to show up in both places and be good at both. And I truly believe that you can do both. It's not easy. I think I have a lot of things that I think it takes to be able to do both. And I do spend time talking to my women employees and just encouraging them and giving them some guidance and feedback of how you can keep growing and doing it. You can be a fantastic mom, and you can also be a fantastic business owner. And I really think that I encourage women to be able to do both, and particularly if that's your interest and your drive. There are challenges, of course. Are there times where work comes first? Yeah. You can't leave it when you're a business owner, but I think that I have worked really hard over the years to stay very intentional with my family and my boys, who are the best. And I think having a support system is the only way you can get through it. And so whatever that looks like, but I think that is, I'm very proud of women who can do and want to do both, because I think it can be done.
I think, if I may, just Teri, I think what when we were talking about redoing our values and really saying, hey, is this really who we are? And we came up with some different values. One of the things that came to mind, again, was what you mentioned, intentional, purposeful. And it's neat to see, again, having a business partner who is a woman, who's a strong woman, and I would say strong-willed, but that's a compliment.
I'm kidding.
We get along pretty well. It's funny because sometimes we'll be like, are you guys brother and sister? Or, it's just, we do have a good time. But it's being intentional, being purposeful. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing. That's why it's the first piece or first value that we share is being intentional, always knowing what you're going to do and always knowing why you're doing it. And Teri will say, hey, I'm going to cut out. I'm going to go to my boys' soccer game, or I've got a basketball game or whatever. And that's the one thing I guess I've always seen Teri do, is make time for those things for her family. And it's been a good example to me. Hey, I got to shut this down and get out of here because I got something I got to go to. And Teri, when I first brought that to her attention, say, hey, on Fridays, I've got cross country meets or whatever it is, whatever it was at the time, where it takes an hour and a half to get home. I said, can I start working at home on Fridays? I just had that conversation and it went over very well. I mean, it was, of course. So it's given me the opportunity just to see, again, I think sharing that, empowering others, and Teri, again, working with our team to help empower them as well to be everything they can be.
No, you've been talking, you got out in front of remote work before the pandemic, right? And looking at it now, do you think that there's so many of the people that we work with, especially when the pandemic first hit, got really fearful? It's like, we're going to miss collaboration. We're going to miss this relationship we have with each other. We're going to miss the fun. We're going to miss, whatever that miss was. And yet here you are with more experience in this perhaps than some of our listeners who may still be thinking, oh gosh, we were just about to come back into the office and then a surge happened, and there's like this great disappointment. Maybe there's a second wave of fear. I guess I kind of have two thoughts about it. Do you see anything that is missing by having an entirely remote model? And the other side of it is if there was, would you ever consider an office again, or is this it?
It's a good question. It's been a struggle. It's been tough. Again, we had all of our employees who were working from home once during the week. And so they at least had one day where they didn't have to commute. And that was across the board for, I should say, all of our accounting team. Our admin team was in the office primarily. We have had some remote workforce, some people who work 100% remote and did before the pandemic, but not very many. And so when you look at that, it has collaboration. You have to make the effort. It has to be, again, intentional. If you do, I will just give you an example. When we have an audit meeting, a pre-audit meeting, we're going to go and we're going to sit down, and sometimes we'll even order lunch ahead of time. So they'll have lunch delivered to everybody's house. We're eating lunch together, having a meeting like we would just in the office. And so you really have to try to replicate things, either make them similar or better when possible. But some of the collaboration is actually better being remote. Some of the screen sharing and the things that can be done remote, the Zoom chat that we do has saved a lot of correspondence and time getting out of the email. There's been some fantastic benefits, but you really got to make it. You got to look for what the goal is and really strive for that and make it intentional.
Mm-hmm. Do you foresee an event or two or three during the year where you do all get together? Take the Delta out of the picture.
Oh yeah.
Cool. We're going to try to meet pretty soon. Actually, we have a staff appreciation day that we do every year. This year, again, we want to be wise about what we're doing and making sure that we're making good choices there as well for everybody's health and safety. But yeah, we're going to get together and we're going to do something that's outdoors and get to see each other. And there's, like I said, there's 2 employees who I've never even met in person, so we're going to be able to see them. But we also try to do something around the holidays as well. So there's typically 2 or 3 times where we're going to get together, but we're talking about what can we do to bring that back, because there really is something to be said about meeting in person as well on occasion. There's some value to that for sure. And we've talked about it. We don't know if this is a short-term fix or a long-term solution, but at least wise, we do have an office where we have an office space where we can meet. We've got a conference room that we can go to, and where our administrative folks and our mail and everything goes to. So there are some people that are in an office, but they also work from home a few days a week as well. So that everybody is working at home at least a few days a week, if not full 100%.
Right. That's great.
There's a lot of steps to get there, and we're a little bit ahead of the game moving in that direction because that's where we did want to go. If you would have, said to me in March of 2020, would you be 100% remote? I'd be like, no way. Like, we got to be in the office, at some point. And then we just went that way. And we, not only did we did a lot of asking our team like this. We're not going to assume, like, how are you? Is this working for you? Do you like it? Do you want to go back? We care about what they think because we have a lot of people who are local, but it also has presented opportunities for some of our team members to move out of state who are now happier than ever. We got we've got a couple employees in different states, and they are thriving because they can work for us because they want to, but be in a different place. So there's been opportunity that we think it has provided us and set us apart, because we're not having the conversation and stressing about the going back, whatever that means. We look at it as we've evolved, and we are continuing to evolve. Did it take some effort getting servers out of the office, going 100% paperless? How do you deal with the mail? I mean, you name it. We've got processes for everything, but you have to. And it's caused us to get there. But it takes a lot of work and some, collaboration to make it there, and then being like, okay, does this work? If it doesn't work, then we're gonna fix, and you keep moving. It's just moving forward. We don't like the word going back, because I don't, what does that even mean? I think we're at a place where I don't think we're gonna be there. I think we just need to accept this new place we're in, and if you're gonna keep up with it, you got to move forward.
No, I love that, and I think I just wrote down #listening leader, because the fact that you take the time and you really listen.
Yep.
Is one of the things we're coaching other leaders about. Is if you just talking to yourself or one or two executives, or you're in your head about things, or you're in your head about going back to whatever that was, and you're not listening to your people, they're going to leave.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But even better than that, if you're listening to your people, they're going to care. They're going to care. You're going to care about each other. You're going to learn how to adjust and adapt. So I applaud you for that.
I would actually say, I want to say one of the, so you have done this work, you have moved forward, you're not talking about going back. And so if a listener is trying to figure out what's the payoff, why would I do that? What immediately comes to mind is the last time you posted a job for a CPA, you had really high level candidates who were actively working. These weren't unemployed people who were just looking for a job. You had applicants who were actively working at other companies, who their companies are talking about going back. And their company, they're thinking, I'm not ready. I don't want to. And whether it's because of fear of COVID, or whether it's because I can work from home and I can be productive and I don't want the commute. But you got higher level. Not to disparage, you've hired great people in the past, but I think you had a really great response to that ad because of the work that you did to get to this point.
It was interesting because one of the first questions I always ask in an interview is, what intrigued you? Why'd you apply? Like, why? And because there are so many out there, what sparked your interest here? How well written was my ad? But they all said this was remote, and I'm looking for that, which was very interesting. Very interesting. And I think you're right, Patrick. It may not necessarily be COVID related. I think a lot of in our industry, if you set it up correctly, we're very capable of working in this remote atmosphere. And frankly, back to what Doug said, the success with our clients, it used to be a process. They used to have to drive into downtown, go into a parking garage, go upstairs. Like they'd have to block out 2.5, potentially 3 hours of their day, depending upon drive time, to come see us for an hour. Now you hop on a Zoom call and you can share your screens and have a very effective tax planning consulting meeting, and you're done in an hour and they're on their way right where they were. There's a lot of value to that, which we're going to see in our industry. And I actually see more of my clients now face to face, because I actually here's the Zoom link. I want to see them, because people are getting more comfortable in it. And so we've kind of pushed that, and, it's fantastic.
I think I had an experience. My son just got his passed his driver's test. And when we were driving over to take his test, I'm a nervous dad, I guess I've learned. But one of the things I remember telling him is the car is going to steer the way that you're looking. And I think of that of our business. Where we are looking is where we are going. And if we're looking back, we're going to go back. And nobody wants to go backwards. Everyone wants to move forward. So make a plan and stick with it. And our plan has been to go remote and to offer that opportunity for our employees. And we're doing everything we can to stay true to that. Will we be back or have an office space where, I should say back in an office, will we be in an office space at some point in the future, or have an ability to have kind of a mixed opportunity where some people may want to be in an office place and some people may want to be remote? We could very well be there in the future, but not right now. Right now, we know what we want, we know who we are, and that's what we're embracing.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to admit this, but I actually physically haven't seen Patrick for over a year.
I know.
And I miss him.
You're probably better off. I'm just saying.
So then Patsy and I connected out at the coast. It was already over a year, and we were like kids, really jubilant for that moment.
You can't replace the eyeball to eyeball, right? I mean, that as far as the physical presence, but this video does a pretty good job.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I appreciate that you guys understand the ebb and flow, when you want to use one, when that face-to-face is really important, how you create that, and then how do you maximize this virtual time together. Yeah.
I feel like how I feel about the technology is going to come through in how I use it and how the other person experiences the conversation. So if I feel like, oh, this Zoom thing or this, this video conferencing just isn't as effective. Honestly, that was a challenge for me in my business, right? Just like everybody else, how am I going to deliver virtually? And my first thought, I remember when everything went virtual at the start of the pandemic, my first thought was, it's not going to be as good. And then I within a relatively short order of time, I thought, if I believe that, then I'm going to convey that somehow you, the customer, are going to get a lesser product because I can't do it virtually, because I can't do it in person, because I have to do it virtually. And that, to me, the shift had to come in my own thinking. I had to stop thinking that way and begin to think, how do I maximize this? It's going to be different. And you're right, Teri, there are tools that you can use that make it just as effective, just different, but just as effective.
Just different.
I remember when we had that conversation, Patrick, when we first were starting to say, hey, why don't we do this remote? Talking to you and say, why don't we do a Zoom meeting instead? And it's, again, we don't have, none of us are leaving our homes to travel somewhere. We get that extra time. You get a break in between. And so you can really actually spend more time. There's a few extra minutes there, here and there, if you want to spend extra time with that client, with that individual, or working on that solution. I think one of the biggest things that our vision statement, we exist to listen, understand, and prove we care. And I think the components that when we talk about that, it just exemplifies what we do. You have to listen to people. What are their concerns, and try to understand where they're coming from. That's the empathy component. And then the proving we care is, now you got to take action. You're either going to move forward with an idea, or you're going to let that individual know if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you just, again, clear lines of communication. But you have to show that you're listening and that you understand, and that you truly do care about them. That goes for employees, that goes for business partners, that goes with consultants and vendors, et cetera. Whoever we work with, we carry that true all the way around. And the reason I bring that up with the pandemic, or again, working remote, all of these things, we heard from our team that they wanted to do that they wanted to have the opportunity. And we loved it. So why would we not extend that same opportunity to our employees?
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Any other questions or thoughts from my colleagues before we kind of slide into the home stretch?
I have one.
Okay.
You two are dynamic. This mix of moving forward and fun and caring, and and at some point you have to potentially identify successors, or how does this continue to scale and grow if for a while, for any reason at all, good, bad, or whatever, you're not available, or you just say, I've just decided I'm moving to Thailand and bringing my family with me, and on and on. So any thoughts about that? I mean, I know working with Patrick, you must have at some point discussed some of that. How does that look when you look at your team, or is that going to be some other strategy we haven't talked about? Because I know that our listeners are listening, and there are a number of people who are at retirement age who are working to exit, and it's hard right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll answer the question. You said to Thailand, it's actually Tahiti.
All right.
You have to bring on people that you want to work with, that are going to work well. Again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but that are going to work well with your clients, that work well with the team, and that will continue the relationship that we've had. We learned a lot of great skills from our predecessors. We learned a lot of things that we didn't want to do and ways that we did want to change, and we've moved in that direction. We've gotten it. It hasn't been easy. Lab, I would be lying if I said every single step that we've done is easy, because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But at least wise, we've made the decision to do it and move forward with that decision. And we have some folks at our firm that we think would be a great opportunity to be great successors to us. But there's some training that goes on there as well. And sometimes, again, the technical skills may be there. It's the soft skills and making sure that the interpersonal part of it, the relationship building, those things are really solid as well.
Mm-hmm.
And working with our team to get there. So we identify different ways that we can strengthen our team members and work with those things. And they're not always technical.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great, that is definitely something that we think about and talk about. And, both Doug and I hold this partnership very dear to our hearts, as most business owners do. And so when you think about sharing it, it's a really big deal, But we know something really good needs to be shared, and life happens, and we don't want to do this forever. Like, let's be real, So you got to plan for that, and we are working on that. It's not a science, I don't think. It's just something you really need to work with your team early on, so like you said, it can be continued. That's the goal, is to continue the legacy, for it to keep growing and to keep going for years. And I truly believe we'll find the right people to do that.
Yeah.
And I guess I would add, just based on what you were talking about earlier, the fact that there were 4 of you 10 years ago who took this over, and it took a while. And I love the way you said it, Teri. They weren't bad people; they were great people.
Great.
But if it's not the right fit, they're not going to be happy, and it's not going to work. And so you've already experienced what it was like when partners weren't all on the same page, and you understand the importance of not replicating that issue, right? So Doug, you said it's the importance of remembering the soft skills. You can be a fantastic CPA, a fantastic accountant. You can be fantastic in the technical skills. And in order to be a partner on your team, they need to share the values, and it's the empathy. It's being able to keep the emotion in it and build the relationships. That's just as important. And I think that's important for anybody listening who's at that point where they're looking for a successor. You owe it to your people. To me, I feel like that's a responsibility as a leader. You owe it to your people to bring on a future successor who will continue, right, the kind of environment that you've built. Otherwise, if it's a massive left turn, you're suddenly going to have a whole team of people who feel like they don't fit anymore, like they don't belong anymore.
And clients who are, wait a minute, this isn't what I'm used to. This isn't what I signed up for. This is not what I like. And they'll find something else. It's really keeping those relationships, not only the team, but the clients. And
good point.
It's a very good point.
And that's why I keep her around as a business partner.
What's that?
Wisdom. That's why I keep her around as a business partner, for her wisdom. That little nugget here and there.
Little nugget.
Okay, so you guys have been fantastic. We end every episode with something we call Let's Get Practical, which is key points, key takeaways from our conversation today, things that a listener can begin to implement tomorrow. in their business or in their own personal professional development that will make inroads, take steps towards improving in the areas that we've talked about today. So this is as the conversation goes along, we take furious notes. We have been. I have been. I'm going to throw it to my colleagues first and ask, when you think about for our listener, what can someone begin to do tomorrow that would start the key takeaways from today that would start making inroads in and Doug and Teri, I'll come back to you at the end so you can add anything that we've left out. How's that?
Great.
Patsy or Leb, who wants to start?
I'll start. I have one. Lead by example. Be intentional about how you show up.
Yep.
Carry yourself as if it matters. So that's one that I'm taking away.
Yeah.
And I love this early on, Doug. You have to know where the goalposts are. You have to know where the goalposts are in order to get there. So it's another example of your intentionality. I've got more, but we'll see how the rest of them float out.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, certainly be authentic. You know, you don't need to try to be somebody that you're not. You need to work hard to be somebody that you are, and allow for that for everybody. And, you know, allow for and actively promote fun. And not just as a word, but do it and enjoy it. And I think, you know, being intentional, understanding sometimes, you know, you have to pause and figure out what are we intending? You know, where do we want to land? And the other thing I'd say, just it goes beyond hiring people. It's right fit.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes clients. It's not just everybody that is going to want to, you know, going to work with you, and it's not just everybody that you want to work with or expose your employees to.
Yep. Good.
So,
all right.
I'll pause there.
That's good. So, and that was good. I was able to cross out a few that I had, which is good. So we started off with Doug, you were talking about know your differentiator, right? You have to know. So you as a listener in your business, what differentiates you? How you got to know that, and then to the addition to that is then you got to hire to that, and you got to teach your people how to embody that. Otherwise, it's just words, right? So there was that. There was a whole section on, and you know, I'm passionate about this. Hire for your core values. Begin to look at performance, not just what I do, but there's the how, and the how should tie. They should align to your core values. So make sure that you're hiring for your core values. Teri, we talked about positioning people according to their strengths, right? Like let's figure out what are they strong at, and then let's put them in position to just be the best version of that, and not continually ask them to do things that they're not good at. Let's see, Doug, this is brilliant. I've known you for 6 years. This might be the most brilliant thing you've ever said. And it was the car steers in the direction that you're looking. So where are you looking in your business? I thought that was fantastic. I guarantee you that's going to be a video clip that I'm going to cut from our conversation today. That was really good. And which you were talking about, and the successors piece. Don't forget to include the soft skills in your evaluation of potential future leaders in the business, and not just focus on the technical ability, but also somebody's ability, they're fit for the culture that we have, fit for the people that we have, and fit for the clients that we have as well. I'll pause there. I have a couple more, but I'll pause and let me open it up to you, Teri and Doug, based on what we talked about today or something we didn't talk about. If you're thinking about talking to our listener, what should they begin to focus on? What's something they can implement tomorrow to help move forward in this direction?
Well, Patrick, I'll say I've known you for 6 years. That's the first compliment you give me, so I really do appreciate that. I'm kidding. So, you know, one of the things that comes to mind is, again, when you have to be able to put empathy is a huge part of it. And if it doesn't come naturally, learn it. Because to understand other people and to be able to put yourself in their situation is going to bring a lot of success to your team as well, because it's not just, otherwise you're just hearing, you're not listening. You're not proving you care because you really don't know what they want anyway. So it's really
great.
putting yourself in their shoes. And again, it's not an easy skill to learn and then to apply, but all of us have the ability to learn it and to apply it.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys nailed it, right? You guys, those are all good key takeaways. But yeah, I think that listening, always listen to your people, listen to your clients, listen to your business partner, really hear people. I think that is a skill that is overlooked often, and is very actually obvious on a Zoom meeting, which is a new thing that I think that we've all seen. And be genuine. You got to, I know it seems so silly, but if you really care about your people and you care about your clients, like it really goes a long way. It really sets you apart, because I think there's a lot of people out there that are missing that. And I think life has made us hard and has made us create a shell. But if you can break that, I think it really helps, particularly with your people right now. And just move forward. Don't look back. You got to move forward. Whatever that means, but just, don't be afraid to move forward. And that can start tomorrow. That totally can start tomorrow.
One of the things, Patrick, if I may, just, when you talked before about successors, or maybe it was Lev, what Teri and I have tried to do over the last little while, just said, hey, let's look at people where they can be and coach them to where they can be, not coaching them where they're at. If you're looking for a successor, it doesn't start there. It looks at the first entry-level accountant or intern, and how do you get them to the next level and the next and the next, and keep them growing with their technical skills and their interpersonal skills, and what can you do to help them become a better individual and a better employee, to someday be a better owner. And that's, you always have to be looking to where they can be, not where they're at.
Yeah, that's great.
That's excellent. Yeah.
That's great. Any other thoughts, Lev or Patsy? Good.
No.
Rich, valuable conversation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Teri and Doug, if someone wants to learn more about you and Fellner and Kuhn, where can they find out?
They can find us on the web, www.fk-cpa.com, and watch this over and over again. You'll learn more.
There you go. Yes, do that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for your time and your wisdom today. You're great people. I can tell. I can speak from experience. Your team enjoys working for you. They enjoy working for the company. Yours is one of the only companies where I've ever had an employee say, I want to work here for the rest of my life, and very new in their career, right? I think relatively new in their career. So, where they just know, I love it here, and I couldn't imagine going anyplace else. And so that's a testament to you and your the tone that you set. So well done. So that's it. Thank you, listener, for staying with us from the beginning to the end. We appreciate it. As always, head out to thefrustratedceo.com, where you can check out this episode as well as all of our previous episodes, and you can download this episode's Let's Get Practical and all of the Let's Get Practicals from our previous episodes. Until then, or until our next episode, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again.